Hi, everyone, and welcome to Signature West Podcast. I'm your host, Sam West from Palm Springs, California. As you know, I'm a seasoned real estate agent since 1991, and I do the podcast to bring you inspiring stories. Some real estate related, some are not. Nonetheless, it's all Palm Springs, Coachella Valley. Today is no exception. My guest today is Brent Hines. Hope I got that right. And we're going to talk about everything. I'm going to focus on safety blows. Sounds very erotic, doesn't it? But it's not. Hey, Brent, how are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, it's funny. The name Safety Blows definitely does bring up a lot of different impressions in people's minds, right?
That's where my head went. Every time I say it, that's where it goes. So, and I'm sure you had, there's some part of that was when the name came up, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm sure that's where somebody's head was going somewhere. So you're a therapist, a psychotherapist by profession?
I am, 22 years.
22 years. And who's your typical client?
In my career, I've worked with a lot of different people. I've worked in psych hospitals and community health, prisons, worked with a lot of kids who went through a lot of abuse. But really in the past, 12 years, I've really focused on working with gay men and lots of different relationships, lots of different relationship dynamics. So it's fun. I love it.
What do you think the most common reason for gay men to seek therapy?
Well, you know what? Yeah, right.
I love therapy.
And me being a gay man too, I think, being gay or LGBTQ, queer, bi, questioning, trans, whatever, it can be a traumatic event in and of itself. So in a way, it's like being human's traumatic. So, everything that can happen to us as normal people, but then we got that added thing about feeling, less than.
Yes,
so anxiety, depression, scared that people are going to find out who we are and ditch us or beat us or like not love us. So, and all the stuff that comes along with that. So it's a lot.
And what's the age bracket? The age bracket is all over?
Oh my God, totally. I've worked with people from age 6 to my current oldest client is 92 and he's amazing.
Oh, I love that.
But it's never, therapy isn't just for the people that are really struggling. Sometimes counseling is a great way for people just to maintain their own like emotional health. It's great. Some people go to the gym. Other people talk to their counselors. So sometimes it's a really good balance between lots of different things.
Yet it's incredibly impossible. At least I find it very impossible to find a decent, at least in the Coachella Valley, a decent therapy that, ever since COVID, your industry completely changed.
Totally. 100%.
And I think it gotten more in your favor because you you can do this all day long. You don't have to have an office. But I mean, I found it impossible to find, and I'm very picky because I've been around the block a few years. So that's just my opinion on the industry. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but it's tough to find somebody that you can really mesh with and gets you, not just, you're going to have an hour to vomit and go and repeat yourself every week. That's to me.
Yeah. It's not like finding a mechanic for your car. I mean, it's about someone you're going to discuss really deep stuff with and stuff that has maybe caused pain throughout your entire life. So, it's funny. A lot of us receive a very similar education. So the thing that sets us apart is our personalities and our insight and the ability to connect with who we're working with. And if you're not comfortable with who you're working with, you're probably not going to go that deep or be as honest as you could be. So,
but isn't it true that most patients don't know what even that means?
Sure.
Like I never go and say, "What's the plan? What are we going to do in 6 months? Where am I going to be in 6 months?" This is not a coffee talk, but I think most patients, they go in and they say, "Okay, well, they just want to chat," and I guess the therapist, it's fine. They chat and they get paid and they move on, and then like a year goes by. And what just happened? What did you get done? What did you accomplish? So
it's funny because you can sit there and chit chat with a therapist, but I think it takes a special bond to really say, okay, what's going on? And to go through the journey together and try to figure out the best ways to engage and heal and try new things. But I think part of therapy is really about just like developing plans to try. It's like everything, you try it, it doesn't work, or it works to a certain extent.
And everyone's different. Everyone is different. Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If there was one truth, I would just write one book and, make $1 zillion and retire.
Yeah.
But, everything's so individual, and we're all unique and have our unique perspectives on things too. So
I agree. Yeah, but I just hope. I mean, that's just my own. People when they go to just like to want to conquer something by 6 months or a year or whatever, how long it takes. Some people might take longer. I'm kind of impatient, but yeah. Walk me through the pre-idea with, like, I would say pre-subconscious of safety blows.
So, it was the end of November. I think it was November 19th. I'm laying in bed next to my husband. I'm screwing around on Facebook. I'm scrolling stuff. And I don't know if you remember seeing, there was a demonstration in Columbus, Ohio with a bunch of neo-Nazis and SWAT gear. They were wearing goggles. And they had these black flags with red swastikas on it. And they were just doing this demonstration walking down the street. And I completely freaked out. I couldn't really believe what I was seeing. I was like, oh my God, has our country gotten to this place where we're doing, neo-Nazi demonstrations? And I looked over and I showed my husband this video, and I'm like, this is terrifying. What are we going to do? And I don't know. And he's like, we have to do something. And so I legitimately went to bed thinking, okay, what can I do? And I woke up, and safety blows was what came out of it.
Was it based out of fear that night laying in bed? Was it based out of was it based out of reaction or respond?
All of it. So I'm in my 50s, and I've spent most of my life working on becoming comfortable with who I am. Like we started by talking about therapy. Like, I've been through enough to know what I needed to do to build this confidence in my life and to be happy with who I am and accept every part of me. So here I was, for the first time in a long time, feeling unsafe, insecure, scared, angry. I was pissed.
Since when? I mean, was that the trigger?
Oh my God, it had been probably 20 years since I really felt powerless and freaked out.
But when did you feel this, snap?
Oh, like when I was watching that video?
That November?
Oh my God, it was immediate.
Really?
Immediate. Oh my God. I think most people, when they see hatred, especially when they come from a place of experiencing fear or discrimination in the past, I mean, it just triggers and it brings all this stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, but it was funny because it wasn't just about me feeling powerless. I was mad.
You got triggered.
Yeah, totally. Oh, it was a huge trigger.
That's it.
But it was all these emotions. Yeah, it was all these emotions coming at once. I was like, I'm surprised I got any sleep. I think that night I slept maybe like 3.5 hours because my brain was just churning. And
if I would ask you, can you pinpoint? Because I always I'm a very why kind of guy. Like, I always want to know why. If I get a cold, I want to know why I got a cold. So if you would say, what was the point that got you triggered? Based on what? 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 6 years ago?
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? So it's a few things. So I was raised. I think a lot of gay people and LGBTQ people. I felt awkward and weird and not quite part of the group. That's a pretty normal thing for most of us. But I mean, you don't have to be LGBTQ to feel, not enough or whatever. But I felt like that. So there's been different times in my life that have been these benchmarks of feeling not enough or screwed up or whatever. So yeah, and personally, I don't like feeling powerless. But it was really weird. There was that moment where I say this a lot in my therapy when I'm working with clients. Trauma is like a bunch of little kids holding hands, that every time one trauma gets triggered, they're all holding hands. So all the traumas kind of come along with it. And so that's why I experienced all of everything all at once. And I was like, wow, okay. I'm a gay guy in my 50s living in Palm Springs, living my best life. And I'm feeling insecure and weird and scared and angry. And I'm like, oh my God, there are people in, Tennessee. I mean, there are people in Idaho. There are people in all these different places that are feeling probably that way.
Yeah, but I always say it's not the effect, it's the cause.
Yeah.
So I always say, it's not that night you were laying in bed. It was that point that triggered, again, whatever, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So the following morning you woke up, and then what happened?
So I was like, I think I know what I want to do. I want to talk to people about ways to reduce the potential that something bad will happen to them. Um, you, we live in a world that we don't know exactly what's going to happen to us at any point in time. You can take all the precautions in the world and somebody might hit you with a car. You might twist your ankle like walking. You might, who knows, you could have a heart attack. You just never know. But there's definitely things you can do to reduce your risk. So I thought it was a great opportunity to talk to people kind of about, hey, don't get cavalier about safety, because there's things out there that can hurt us. So the whistle stuff came a little bit later, probably later on that morning. But at least I woke up saying, hey, I need to really start encouraging people to have conversations about their own personal safety and the choices they make in their everyday life.
And then what happened?
So I started thinking about this. So there was a time about 20 years ago, I was going to San Francisco a lot. I did most of my growing up in Colorado, and I loved San Francisco. But something San Francisco is really amazing at, and has been throughout history, is about being there for themselves. So when
the underdog.
The underdog. So when people were fighting for gay rights, they were there. When people were fighting for HIV care and money and treatment and compassion and love, San Francisco led the way. There are lots of other communities that did as well. I mean, Chicago, New York, LA, Colorado was huge. But I took nods from them. But I also took nods from what I knew from educational things. The universities and colleges all over talk about situational awareness. Like if you're walking home late at night from the library, don't walk alone. Walk in well-lit areas. Ask a friend to meet you. Call someone when you're walking back. So, and so one other thing San Francisco was really great at, they had a whistle initiative that they've been doing for a long time. Lots of great leaders there. They've got a huge group of advocates and activists. So the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence out there really started their own kind of whistle initiative. And there are people like Ray Spannon and who really beat the drum and talk about all this stuff. So one of the main things with whistles is that, especially in the Castro, you can be out on a night hanging out with your friends. If you hear a whistle go off, it's a signal to people to stop what they're doing and listen. Try to figure out where it is because someone's in distress.
Interesting.
And I just thought as a community, it was really neat. Yeah. So, I think it's a really great way to take something that's effective, but also really empowers people because I don't like to feel scared or powerless. I want to feel strong and confident. So, it just all kind of came together.
And then now that you have this idea and you want to come to fruition, what was the next step?
So really coming up with a catchy name, right?
Right.
So, being a gay guy, of course, I'm fully aware that the name Safety Blows can be seen as provocative. But I think it's an interesting thing. Of course, it's double entendre with, but it's for people that really know me, I've got a goofy sense of humor anyway. But like with any good marketing, you want it to be memorable. You want it to be effective, but you also, I think, want it to be indicative of what it is. So yeah, I mean, Safety Blows, it's a whistle. But the program is a lot more than just safety whistles, because if it was just about passing out safety whistles, I would just go door to door and give everyone whistles.
How is it more?
It's so when you go onto the website, so when you go onto safetyblows.org, of course, we talk about the whistles, we talk about the purpose behind it, but there's a lot of different categories. So when you go under safety, we really break out into different topics. There's party safety. So when you're out drinking, hanging out with your friends, there's lots of other things to think about. If you're mixing drugs, alcohol, if you drink too much, if you go to a place, think about exits. Think about how you're socializing with people. If somebody has you cornered, what are some things you can do?
Or just stay home.
Well, yeah, or you can just stay home. So when you're home, do you have the doors and the windows locked? Do you have your Ring doorbell that records people as they come up? Do you have motion lights? If you're home online, we talk a lot about online safety. So, don't give out too much personal information online. If you're chatting with somebody online, maybe you want to meet them in person before you invite them over to your house in the middle of the night.
If there's a line between precaution and overly panicked.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because if we let paranoia overtake us, we'll never do anything.
And there's plenty of that going on. I don't need to shop for it. It's already given and being handed out. So
100%.
Yeah.
So it was, and I know you're based in Palm Springs too. There was a town hall meeting late last year, where they were talking about like public safety and what the police department in the city was really doing. It was a great conversation. But our police chief Andy Mills got up there and said, "Hey, so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on probabilities, not possibilities. Because if you look at possibilities, you're going to get completely overwhelmed and freaked out.
You're dead.
100%. Yeah. So probabilities are saying, okay, what evidence do we have that these like 20 things could happen, as opposed to these 500 things that are possible? Because if we focus on the 500, then we're going to freak out. I'm going to be in the corner rocking back and forth because I'm so freaked out by everything.
I was amazed how full that meeting was. I mean, it was full to the brim. And I was like, okay, what are we freaked out about, and what is it based on? I wasn't there. I'm not judging it, but my first thing was, there's so much. Is it hysteria versus precaution? And I suppose that's the you said something the other day, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it exact.
Cool.
So if I fuck it up, you said drugs are part of the community, but death does not need to be.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, we did a community discussion on drug use, risk reduction, and it was supported. We did a panel discussion. So there are 2 members from the police department from Palm Springs, and risk reduction leaders from DAP Health and St. John's Community Health. And I got to moderate it. There were a bunch of people. Hunters offered us the space, which was fantastic. And so we got a chance to talk about how, what's really going on in our culture, but also like educating people about what potential things can be in drugs that cause death. So, obviously there's lots of these painkillers and stuff like that can be in drugs that are causing these overdoses. But we talked about Narcan, which can stop an opiate overdose. And it was great. We had an impromptu demonstration where he was like, "Do you want to see how to use Narcan?" And this guy like laid on the ground, and we did all the sternum rubs to try to revive him. And we put the thing up his nose and sprayed it. It was really neat. So we're going to have more of those. So, and they'll be kind of branded like that. Drugs happen, but death doesn't have to. So are we just acknowledging what is, which is fine. Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, and that's what we do. And it's part of who we are.
Yeah. It's definitely part of like how some people spend their time and energy in our community. And drugs obviously aren't exclusive to the gay community, but there's and I'm not here to say sobriety needs to be for everyone. But if you're going to do something, do it smarter, do it safer. It's funny. Like, I mean, I can legitimately be walking down the street and know that, I mean, I may be at risk for certain things, but there's things I can do to reduce my risk. And drug use is no different. So, there are techniques on the website as well under the category about party, where it's like, if you're going to do like drug stuff, let somebody know what you're doing. So if something happens and they have to call the paramedics, go, yeah, I think they were doing ketamine and they were doing meth. And, I tried to give them Narcan and it didn't work. All kinds of things. There's different testing strips you can use to see if there's other substances in there. So there's ways you can do it safer. There's not a safe way to do it, but
So is the website now, the way I understand it, is the website really not just to blow a whistle? It's educational. It's
Correct.
informative. It's all of that.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
So
I
the
did not
funny
know
thing
that.
so the funny thing about whistles, it's a functional tool, and they're small. They fit on your keychain. They're teeny. There's these little whistles, but the whistles aren't necessarily specifically like the most important thing. Like you said, knowledge is really important.
Right.
But there's like you can have apps on your phone that have whistles or alarms. There's all kinds of different technology you can use. But the whistle is really symbolic as well. One of the things I love to say, and it's on the website too, a tool doesn't have to be complicated to be effective.
No,
So some of this information is really, some people would say it's common sense. Other people say, well, that's something I could do. But it also symbolizes the importance of somebody feeling like in a moment of need, nobody needs to feel silenced. You can be loud. And sometimes a whistle is just enough to cause somebody to startle and it's like, what's going on? And the more information we have, we say blow the whistle in 3 short bursts. So if you're on arenas hanging out, walking to your car, and you hear tweet, 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 and then you hear it again, maybe you're going to want to go and run and see if you can help. Other people can chime in too. So if they hear like 3 whistles and they run to see what's going on, if they need more help, they use their whistles too. And, we don't want people to jump in and act like, Batman or some karate guy, but you can do all kinds of things. You can hit record on your phone. You can help somebody. You can, don't get me wrong, if there's 5 people, responding, I mean, you've got some manpower.
Right. So would you say that I feel this way, that we're more driven by fear than anything else?
I think in general, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Why don't I speed more than I do in my car? Because I fear a ticket. Why don't I do certain...
That's law.
Yeah, I mean, just like,
that's a law. But I mean, and most of us overspeed. I mean, even though it's a law, and when he comes behind you, oh my God, he's here. But I just think, at least lately, I just think we're so overly driven by, you're gonna take away my firstborn. There's this like we said earlier, this probability, but there's no proven data, I should say. Again, so just a line between the two that it could really drive people crazy. And I think we're mastering that we're just driving ourselves crazy. And again, I don't know what age that are doing that. Is it the elderly more so than the youngsters, or is it teens, or is the 50 and the 60? I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. So upcoming. I'm actually doing some work with my Zell Center. And we're going to be reaching out to have conversations with the other senior centers. There's 6 in the Coachella Valley. So what's interesting is there are a lot of people feeling very unsure and unsafe. And it's not just LGBTQ. It's not just people of color. It's youth. It's elderly. It's people struggling with mental illness, substance abuse, housing insecure, food insecure. There's anyone seen as different or undesirable. There's a lot of people out there.
There's a lot of shit going on.
Oh my God, 100%. So there's a lot of people that just feel, like to your point, fear is a huge motivator, but I think so is powerlessness and feeling like you just don't know what to do.
I guess I've learned. I'm 63 years old, and I've been in therapy for a long time, and I get it, and I quit therapy because I got the manual, and I believe more than anything else, if you don't watch what's driving you, you're not going to get it. If you're not going to be aware of what you're responding to, you're just as messed up as the rest. So it's a tricky situation. And yes, I think you said it earlier, tools can be great, but if you don't know how to use them, it can be a double-edged sword. And then I guess that's what I'm sort of, I'm just seeing this hysteria.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And the thing is that if you're just experiencing anger, sadness, depression, anxiety, freak out, whatever, and it just sits here in your chest, all it's going to do is freak you out. That's why so many of us are having I mean, all kinds of different emotional responses. There's people who have panic attacks looking online, watching the news.
Right.
There's conflict in families over politics and all that stuff. There's nights I can't sleep because my brain is churning about stuff. And so I think it's about feeling that you're doing something, because otherwise you just kind of get bombarded with a bunch of crap.
And so all they need to do is just maybe pull back a little bit.
Sometimes
just step back for a day, or give it a rest, as opposed to you think you're being engaged, but now you're. And I speak for myself as well. I'm just obsessed,
right?
So yeah, and I know, and I'm not here to preach. I mean, I practice what I preach, and I know when I get obsessed, and I wish I can throw this away for good, and maybe pick it up in 2 days,
right?
Only if I could. Yeah.
Oh no, and I'm not a news junkie, but you can't. The thing is that, I mean, between me doing counseling with clients and then my own stuff and my own Facebook and my own like social media and looking at the news, I can't get away from it. I know there's some people that say, well, I'm just going to keep my head down for another, like 3 years and 9 months and whatever days. But I'm like, I can't bury my head in the sand.
I would say to myself, like Thursdays, I volunteer on Thursdays, so I can't really get too much involved. So I think it's great. So nothing has changed. They're all still screaming, but I'm like 4 hours away, and I didn't design this. It's just going to happen. So for 4 hours, I'm away from this because I'm occupied enough that I cannot, even if I wanted to. So for whoever is listening, if you can just design something, like when I play pickleball, there's no way I can even think, because I'm so busy with those 3 hours. After I'm tired to even. So I think there's a plan. Everybody can structure a plan to design for your self-sanity out there, because the shit ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
No,
I just, it is what it is. It is what it is.
It's you talk about self-care, and that's really important. I mean, from a psychology point of view, but also a personal point of view. A lot of us, and it's funny. It's not just about like getting a pedicure and a massage. I mean, self-care is hanging out with friends. It's about enjoying moments. There's a lot of different wellness things that we can be part of. I mean, we can have physical wellness, obviously, but then we've got emotional and psychological wellness. We've got social wellness. For a lot of us, we have sexual wellness, like how we connect with people intimately. It's not just about sex. It's about like who you feel really close to and who you love in your life, and how you connect with other people.
And what does sex represent?
The what?
What does sex represent to you? I mean, some people's sex is just, I gotta have. Some people's sex is very intimate. It makes me feel very close, even though it's not your husband or your partner. So what sex represents. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm one of those guys. If it's not 100%. Intimacy, I can't do it. So it depends what it represents to you. Yeah.
You know what? If your intimacy is with one person or 50 people, as long as it's in an emotionally healthy place, and it's fulfilling, and you leave these situations feeling amazing.
Right.
That's great.
Right.
It's like lots of things, I mean, anything can be done to a healthy place or an unhealthy place. So, but there's definitely, I think, times where to your point, like people's anxiety and frustration and unsureness of the future just overtakes them. And it causes so much stuff. There's so much behavioral stuff, like behavioral health stuff inside of us. And, I don't know if you've noticed, I've definitely seen like people more on edge in the past year with driving in the grocery store. It's not just MAGA people. I mean, it's
really, it's not, it's everybody. There's not even, I mean, even at work, I mean, I see it at work as well. People are very snappish, and even in real estate or within, well, you see clients all day, so you can even see it. We're nuts. That's why I said being driven by fear is not going to solve anything. It might make it a lot worse. And I don't care how smart you are. Not you, anybody out there. You cannot do this alone. This is going to override you if you let it easily.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because first of all, it takes a village. So there's a lot of different ways that we can feel safe and connected. It's like, we've got other types of wellness too. We've got professional wellness and financial wellness and all that stuff. So sometimes it's about how we spend our free time. Do we have good friends? but you know, the other thing you said was really interesting. Like, it's like it doesn't have to do with intelligence either, because I think there's some like, well, I'm a smart person, I shouldn't feel this level of whatever, and it's like, nah.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, sometimes, you know, there's that phrase, ignorance is bliss. Sometimes ignorance really is bliss, because the more you know, I think the more it's like, wow, I think we're in a scary place.
But do you want to put your head in the sand and be blissful that way, or do you want to explore and never take that pill and never turn back? That's a choice you have to make.
Oh, yeah, 100%. If somebody's robbing my house, I'm not going to sit in the living room with my eyes closed and covering my ears and going, it'll be over soon, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm like, no, I'm gonna grab my metal water bottle and beat the crap out of somebody.
Yeah. So back to Safety Blows. Are you the only one running the show?
No, so I've had a nonprofit called Perspective Shift for 11 years. We started in Colorado, so we've done lots of programming. And once my husband and I moved out here, we run a gay singles group that meets once a month at the Camelot. But I hadn't done a lot of other community programming, because once we moved out here, a couple years later, it was COVID. So we kind of went into hibernation and stuff. So we have an amazing board of directors. There's 6 of us that really run the show. I mean, I may have come up with the initial idea, but I mean, it takes lots of planning and energy. We've got some amazing volunteers out here. One of the most exciting things about Safety Blows now is that there are other communities that are seeing what's going on here in Palm Springs with the launch who want this program. So we just launched in San Diego last weekend. We had an educational thing and on Friday night, and then on Saturday night we had a self-defense class with like 23 people. So that was awesome. Denver is launching in January. No. Sorry, June. Lied. Yeah, June. Phoenix is launching. We're working with a group in San Francisco to do some work out there. I actually just got an email yesterday from a group in Oklahoma that's really excited.
What do you contribute all this buzz to?
I'm sorry?
What do you contribute all the buzz to? Like, you just really started.
I've actually heard this from a few people that I really value. No problem.
Okay, one more time.
Yeah. So you asked what I think the buzz is really attributed to.
Yeah.
I have some very trusted people in my life that have really talked about how topical it is and how poignant it is at this time when people just don't know what to do.
So you think it's timing?
Yeah, I think some of it's timing. It's funny. I heard from a number of people. It's like, you know what? You need to make sure your ducks are in a row more. You need more foundation. You need more planning. You need this stuff before you launch. And I'm like, you know what? We need this. So you know what? We'll figure it out. And so this is super grassroots. The first 10,000 whistle, we had some money in our reserves from the nonprofit. And I was like, I want to go. So I ordered 10,000 palm cards and 10,000 whistles. And I said, we're going to do this. My husband does some web design on the side. So he's done all the websites for every time I have a goofy idea. He's like, what can I do to help? So we spent December. I wrote the content. I worked with the police department and got feedback from other people to really fine tune the language. We launched the website at the end of December. Our first event was on Inauguration Day on January 20th. So we just ran with it.
I thought this was just started like last when I got a hold of it. I thought it just kind of started like
3 months. No, it's only been around for 3 months.
we're in April now, so yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's wild. And at the end of the day, you know what? I don't really know. I'm not doing it the right way, but I'm doing it the way that I know.
What is the right way? There's such a thing as the right way.
You know, it's important. I think it's important that we follow our hearts.
Right.
When we feel passionate about something. But I've consistently been like that. You know, I get made fun of. My husband calls me BSO Brent, bright shiny object, because if there's something really cool and I'm like, I get fired up. I'm like, let's do it.
Do it. Absolutely.
I do, and I run with it. So
life is so fucking short. Like if you don't do it now, when are you gonna do it?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and so and again, I don't think there's a right way to do something, but and it's good. We're figuring it out. We're completely donation based at this point. So if people go to safetyblows.org, you can talk about sponsorships and donations. $5 helps, $100 helps. There's all kinds of ways of getting involved. You can host a fundraiser. You can donate. You can launch Safety Blows in your own city. You can volunteer with us. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube. But there's also we're working on grants right now. That's what I'm going to do later on today. I want to finish a grant. But if you have ties in with organizations that have charitable things, if you have people that have foundations, if you have a bunch of friends that would be interested in contributing, I think it's awesome. So if you go on safetyblows.org and fill out the form to message us, they all come to me. So I would love it. I'm excited.
Where do you see it in 6 months?
6 months is a really interesting time frame. There's so much that can happen. I really want this stable where I've now ordered my third set of 10,000 whistles. So we are poised. We are poised. So we've distributed right now. We've distributed 8,000 whistles. I got my second batch of 10,000. They're sitting in the living room right now next to me. But we have a really exciting announcement. Hopefully in the next couple weeks.
You want to say it now?
I don't know if I can. But there is an international event happening in Chicago at the end of May. That the executive director reached out and said, this is an amazing program. And they get between 10 and 20,000 people at this event. It's over Memorial Day weekend.
Never heard of it.
Oh no. I'm sure. So, but I've been going since 2004, almost every year. It's an amazing event. But they're like, we want to make sure that these whistles and this information gets in people's hands. And so they're doing a lot of distribution. Like when people check into the hotel, if they buy day passes to the event,
there's a fair or the fair.
And then I'll have an area where people can come and talk, and we'll have tons of whistles and information. I'm doing a new exclusive T-shirt for the event, and so it's exciting. And what happens is that it just gets distributed and gets bigger and bigger. So anything that people want to do to help, if they're watching this and want to get fired up about doing something to feel like they're contributing to some type of thing, if I save one life, it's great. It doesn't have to be anything more than it is.
Right.
It's really just about supporting people where they're at and hopefully helping people avoid pain.
So. And I think I grew up in LA, and I think I said this before, and I will say it till I die. Palm Springs is a place where you can, and forgive me, don't take my word like for how they sound, to be very famous or very infamous very quickly. What I mean by that is, if you want to start something, you will succeed 10 times more starting here than, let's say, LA or New York. It has this, maybe because it's too small of a town and the word gets out faster, I don't know. But so I think that's probably the contributing factor to the buzz.
I love it.
It's just the nature of the beast, like I said,
Actually, it's funny you say that. There's a guy from Providence that wants to start it in Providence because he was here and we had a conversation. There's another guy from New York and Fire Island that I was talking to that wants to start this. It's because he was in Rough Trade and we have a basket of whistles there. And he went, this is a great idea. And he wrote to me and said, dude, this is killer. I want to take this to New York and Fire Island. I'm like,
yeah,
yes, let's talk.
There's something about it that's here. And I don't know whether it's the energy of the mountains or desert, or the city is so small. But again, any project, and you probably know this. There's so many things that get started here, whether it's a brand or and it gets known quickly and it gets effective quickly than if you would have started, let's say, in New York. I think because we're maybe a dime a dozen there. I'm not quite sure. Here we're not. We're more known personally, and you can reach out more, and people know you more, and you can talk more, and you can engage more. Hats off to you. Hats off to
Thanks.
you.
It's been a blast. You know what? I love it. It's I love when people get fired up, and and to be able to talk to people about all this stuff.
Like I did not know until I saw the Instagram account. So I live here.
Oh, that's great.
But I'm not necessarily involved in other parts of here. But I did see now that I saw the interview that was at Hunters, and so it depends how people engage. Yeah. So
you just never know who's going to see what.
You never know.
And it's funny. All it takes is it's one person, right? Yeah, I ran into a guy named John Orbit at the coffee shop. He was hanging out with a friend of mine. He lives in Atlanta. He's a fun photographer. He's like, I follow you on Instagram. Safety Blows. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And it was so funny.
Yeah.
And he's like, can I take a picture? Can I post it on my? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Again, it's how you use it. And I go back to what we said earlier about the addiction and about the obsession. Speaking for myself, and how you can use it to benefit as opposed to mentally, have your brain nonstop, and that's not productive. And I go to bed and I wish I can stop. And I made a rule and I failed every fucking time. By 8 p.m., I'm gonna turn it off. It's not 8 p.m. It's more like 10 p.m. and I just regret it. And it showed discipline and discipline. And I got like I said, 5 accounts. Which one? I keep on, and it's part of a trick. If you don't do enough, maybe you're gonna miss that one, lead or that one connection or that one. So it's a balance. It's a discipline. It's all.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
Hats up to you. Congratulations.
This is awesome.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
For the ones that are watching, again, I said this every time. If you enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed the information, please support the guest and me. Subscribe. And if you live in Palm Springs, especially if you live in Palm Springs, you know what to do. How they can find you again? Where do you find you?
Safetyblows.org.
There you go. Yay. So till next time, I'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.